Hey guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to do a video on 10 things I dislike about my M135. I was going to call it 10 things I hate, like a lot of other YouTubers have sort of cottoned on to this whole 10 things I hate about cars. I don't hate them, I guess I dislike them. They could be improvements going forward. As you know, I'm a massive fan of the M135 and 235s. I just, I can't say enough positive things about them. But like all good cars, they've certainly got their faults, even at such a good sort of bargain price that these cars are. This video is also going to apply to the M140s, the M240s, and in fact it kind of touches on some 1, 2 and even 3 series issues that I think BMW have got across the range. So the first issue I'm going to talk about is the actual paint quality on these 1 series, especially the LCI model like this one, so post 2015 I guess it was. The front end where you pick up stone chips, the LCI cars especially seem to have such thin paint, and it almost falls off and peels off at the hint of a stone chip. The few forum people that I've spoke to have had similar problems with their front bumpers where they wrap around, go into the wheel arches. The paint was literally peeling off there. I think the first time I jet washed this car I had paint literally peeling off right down to the plastic, so that was some kind of issue. BMW wouldn't admit to it at the time, but obviously you go through the forums and they don't lie, and other people's photos don't lie. And so yeah, that was a problem. And I just think the paint quality in general on the 1, 2 and 3 series is not particularly brilliant. You know, when I compare it to say my 7 series, the front end, it's done 30 odd thousand miles, and the paint on that and the bonnet especially is just so much better quality than what's on these cheaper cars. So yeah, that's my first gripe is paint quality. My second dislike is also related to paint. It is lack of paint colours. Now the M135 and 235 have only ever had 6 colour options, which I think is ridiculous when the standard 1 and 2 series have, close to 15. I think you just want more, and even if it means you pay a bit more for a couple of individual colours, I think it would have been really nice on these sort of half M cars. I know the M140, they've just introduced the Melbourne Red, which is really nice, and if I am looking at an M140, I think I would strongly consider the Melbourne Red. I'm not even a massive red car fan, but I think the Melbourne Red paint looks great, and it certainly looks good on the M140 with the gunmetal wheels and stuff, so that would be a serious consideration. But yeah, why don't you offer more paint options to customers? I don't get that. It must cost a hell of a lot of money to have to produce a certain model in a number of colours, but that is a shame. And especially over the sort of lifespan, what's been out over 3 years now, and you'd think over that time they would introduce a couple more colours, not just the one. And that goes with the 135 and the 235. So colour options is an issue. My third dislike is the wheels. Now I actually don't mind I think they're 436 alloys, I should know, but whatever they're called, I actually don't mind the alloys and the wheels that are on the M135s and 235s and now on the 140s and 240s. I think they're a great looking design. They're a pain in the arse to clean. They couldn't be harder, in fact. There's that sort of ridge behind the spokes, which is just impossible. And once they've done more than sort of 5,000 or 6,000 miles, that ridge becomes pitted. Even if you look after them and wash them regularly, they're not sprayed particularly well either. If you look behind the spokes, there's always a light patch from new. I noticed that on both of my cars. So the wheels, 18 inches, I've figured out that they look good on a 5-door 1 series. They look fine. 18 inch fills the arches really well. On the 3-door like this one, they look too small, and I think that's got something to do with the big sort of the arch or the overhang or something in the back there, whereas on the 5-door you've got the doors fill all the body panels and it all looks quite neat and tidy, whereas this has got quite a big bulbous bum on it, and then the wheels effectively look smaller even though they're the same size. And that's also true for the 2 series and the 235. I think they look too small in the 2 series. Now, why don't BMW offer a 19-inch wheel, factory option wheel, something that's on the configurator? I certainly would have ticked that box pretty much regardless of cost. from new, and I'm sure 60 to 70% of customers would have done the same. Now, I don't like the M Performance wheels. In fact, I really don't like many of the M Performance parts at all. I'm 36 years old, and I think most of the M Performance stuff appeals to sort of the much younger sort of generation, the early 20s, who like to sort of bling up their cars. But I like the car being very subtle. So yeah, and the M Performance wheels to me just look like a mess. Like a lot of the M Performance parts, actually, it's almost like that they're designed by someone completely separate to BMW. They just don't seem to look OEM at all. And I know that's kind of half the point, but I wish that BMW had just come up with even the same wheel design as what's on the standard car, and just in a 19-inch that you could tick, boom, and it was on the car. I think a 19-inch wheels would look fantastic on this car, and again wouldn't be too over the top and too bling. But that brings me to my fourth dislike, and that is the badging on these cars. Again, it's probably an age-related thing, but what I love most about the M135 and the M140s are how subtle they are, and how they are just basically like a good-looking 1 Series. The horrible badging that's on, especially the LCI, the badge placement on the LCI is just terrible. It looks like an afterthought. It looks like it's been stuck on by a teenager, and I just don't like the whole M. You know, I think M badges should be kept for M cars, and not for half M, or you know, these 1160 M Sport with those horrible the M badges that come down on the front wings behind the front wheels. I mean, they're on everything. You know, literally 70% of the cars that roll off the production line at BMW, or you go down to your local dealer and you got a 518 diesel touring with M badges, that you know that everything's got it. So why you'd want them on a car that's kind of, you know, halfway an actual real genuine M car, I don't know. I just think they look cheap and nasty and tacky, and I don't see the point in I think what's so great about these cars is those that will know, and those that don't, who cares? Like, you don't need to shout about the fact that you've got an M135 and M140. I think the subtleness of these cars is brilliant. But again, that's me being an old man probably, and those of you that like the badging, then fair enough. Okay, so the fifth dislike about these cars is if you don't tick the HK box, the Harman Kardon sound, you get these really horrible, nasty pieces of plastic inserts just sort of behind where the wing mirror hangs out. And I should have learnt my lesson the first time around, and again I only upgraded the what have I got, the professional sound, no, the loudspeaker system, BMW loudspeaker system, for 300 quid instead of the HK for 600. I should have gone all out and got the HK, because number one, it sounds so much better, and number two, it just finishes the cabin. You know, it's so much nicer having the HK sort of tweeters there as opposed to these horrible pieces of plastic. So if you can afford it, go for the HK sound, because it makes the interior of the car look so much better. It just finishes it off much nicer, and you don't end up with these lovely pieces of plastic. My sixth dislike for this car is its rather small petrol tank. Now, on a diesel, on a 118D, 120D, whatever, that's returning 50 mpg, that's fine. I think it's a 52 or 53 litre tank. I wish on these half M cars that they just fitted them with a slightly bigger tank, like a 60 litre tank, but I can understand why that would be a headache for them to do that, and they would probably need to redesign everything, because say the 3 Series tank wouldn't just slot straight in. So I get that, but it's just another complaint of mine that, you know, you very rarely see over 300 miles of tank on this car, even when you're being fairly efficient. It would be nice if you could sort of extend that to 350, 400 miles. Again, my seventh dislike is a fairly minor one, in a way, I guess, depending on how you look at it. You can't get the head-up display on the 1 Series, even on the latest M140, which is a shame, because if you've ever used a head-up display, you really miss cars that don't have them fitted. I certainly, you know, I love the one in my 7 Series, and anything else that I jump in with a head-up display is just so great. You don't realise you're using it all the time, for the nav, for the speed, for everything. It's just safe. You're looking at the road, but yet you're seeing the speed, you're seeing everything you need to see, but through the windscreen. So I think it's about time that BMW introduced that into the 1 Series. But saying that, I wouldn't want the horrible one that sort of comes in the minis, that's basically like a little stuck up piece of glass that's stuck on the dashboard that has it reflecting in that bit of glass. It's, again, that is a head-up display, but it's not a proper one. You want the one that projects into the actual windscreen itself. So yeah, that would be nice if that was on these cars, or available as an option. My 8th dislike, I hope I'm getting all these numbers right and I haven't missed out any, but anyway, my 8th dislike is the fact that you have 2 wheel options on this car, and you have to go for the Michelin Pilot Super Sports, otherwise what's the point in getting the car? You know, they're designed around this car, or the car was designed around those tyres, and they match perfectly. You know, they do a fantastic job in all weathers, and they just yeah, they're brilliant tyres. They wear well, they're great in the rain, in the dry, in the heat, you know, everything. I've done about 40,000 miles on various pairs of them, and they're just brilliant tyres. The only problem with them is they're not run flats. Now, that's what partly makes them so good, is the fact that they haven't got the big fat heavy run flat casing on them. But when you do get a flat tyre, you're screwed. You've got the repair kit or whatever it is in the back, the slime bollocks, you know, it's a waste of time. Don't even bother. If you get a flat tyre, you are going home on the back of a truck. So I just wish that you could at least option or buy a small space saver or something in the boot of the car, because again, on long journeys and stuff, touch wood, it's never happened to me, but if you did get a puncture, you would be stuck, and you don't want it to happen, especially in modern cars these days. You just don't expect that to happen. But the tyre is so good that obviously it's proven to be very puncture proof as well. It's just a brilliant. Michelin, you've done a fantastic job with that tyre. I massively salute you. Well done. Okay, my 9th dislike on this car is the Lsd option. Now, it has been an option on this car for a couple of years now, but it's an aftermarket BMW option, so the car has to be ordered and then it has to be fitted, and I think it works out close to £3,000 once you've paid labour and, you know, you paid for the actual limited slip diff. I wish again that it was a factory option. You could tick it on the configurator. It would be a lot cheaper that way. You know, if it was say 1,500 quid, I'm sure 10% of buyers would opt for it. I haven't driven one yet, but I know from like my M2 and from various people's comments and other owners of these cars with LSDs, they just rave about them. So I wish that was something that you could just tick on the configurator and your car would turn up with it for say an extra 13 to 15, 1,600 quid. I would have gone for one on this car as a chance, and I'm sure it would be a much better car as a result. So yeah, that'd be great. Add that to the configurator, but I can see why BMW wouldn't, because then they are treading on sort of eggshells, because then it is becoming much more of an M car. But yet they do offer it as an aftermarket, so I don't know. Right, my 10th and final dislike for this car is, and I've touched on it before, the seating position in the 3-door especially. Now, I've pushed the seat right back in this one for the film, but I like to sit quite close to the wheel, and when I am quite close to the wheel, I'm sitting too high really. My eyeliner's kind of like scraping the top of the or the bottom of the sun visor there, and I wish I could just, you know, I wish I was sitting about 2 inches lower. Now I am 6'3", so I get that they can't accommodate such a small car for all shapes and sizes, but the 5-door version of this car, and I have sat back in one since owning this, the 5-door version, I do sit a lot lower, so I wish they could somehow just make the seat sit about 1 inch or 2 inches lower in an ideal world. But you know, again, I get around that. I live with this. But in the morning, especially after, you know, first thing in the morning when you're a little bit taller, and I get in this car, I do sometimes feel a little bit of a giant. But yeah, that's it really. As I say, I don't hate anything about this car. I don't hate it. There's a few dislikes, a few things that could be improved upon. Let me know what you think. comment below on stuff that you don't like with your 1 and 2 series. Thanks as always guys for tuning in, and please subscribe, give me a thumbs up. Like I said, leave any comments below and I'll try and reply to them or talk about them in a later video. That's my 10 things I dislike about my BMW M135. Cheers guys, take it easy.